Hello friends and welcome. In today's practice, we'll be working with some poses and some movements that help to support the lungs and overall breath capacity. So we'll begin on the floor over a soft surface. So you can see I have a folded blanket out over my sticky mat. You could also come to a carpeted floor or simply a wood floor if you're wearing soft socks and soft clothing. We'll start with some sliding, gliding work, and so it's helpful to be on a soft surface. Then we'll move to some supported poses, and so it's helpful to have a few extra props. Today I have a yoga bolster, but you're also welcome to just use folded blankets or a cushion from around the house. If you don't have a bolster, that's totally fine. And then as well, I have a couple of extra folded blankets. Now, as I mentioned, today's practice will be focusing on the lungs, really creating a bit more space and freedom for the breath. We're also working with the energetic channel or the meridian according to the traditional Chinese medical model of the lung. So the lung meridian, or this energetic channel that runs through the body related to the lung, starts actually deep in the body. It begins in the stomach. And then from there, it travels down into the large intestine, which is the paired organ of the lung. From the large intestine, it travels back up through the diaphragm and the physical organ of the lungs, so some of the places that we generally think of when we think of breathing, of course. And then from there, it travels to the deltopectoral triangle, where it emerges with the primary channel, which is where the acupuncture points lie. So at the deltopectoral triangle, it then runs along the anterolateral border of the arm, so the inside of the arm, travels all the way down the side of the arm out to the radial side of the wrist crease. So that's the thumb side of the wrist crease, and then out along the thumb. So that's the lung meridian, and the meridians run on either side or both sides of the body, except for the central channels, which just run along, of course, the center of the body. So the lung channel runs along both arms out towards the radial side of the wrist crease. So we'll be working with some movements that really help to target those channels, as well as, of course, affecting the physical organ of the lungs through some side bending and extending, etc. So to begin here, let's start right on the floor. You can go ahead and extend your legs out and bring your arms to your sides. So extending your legs and releasing your arms to your sides. And try to limit the amount of fixing or fidgeting, and instead just let your body drop for a moment. And let your legs be heavy. And allow your arms to drop away from your body. For today's practice, you could flip the palms up if that's comfortable. Let your shoulders drop down towards the floor. Okay, in particular today, observe here the placement of your upper body, so shoulders, scapula, the shoulder blades, upper back, thoracic spine. Just feel the placement of your body here on the blanket. And if you observe any sort of pulling up away from the floor, can you just relax? Just let the shoulders drop a little bit more. And take a moment to check in. Just noticing the landscape inside today. And perhaps noticing sensation or thought or feeling. You could also notice the quality of your breath. So perhaps just by coming down to the floor in this way, the breath has changed. Perhaps it's become a little bit more subtle or quiet. Try not to manipulate the breath in any way. Simply allow the breath to be as it is. Good. And then from here, go ahead and bend your legs. Just slide the feet up. Place feet to the floor. A little wider than the hips is usually good. Then you can interlace your fingers and place your hands behind your head, elbows down. As long as this is okay for the shoulders, just pause there and observe the lengthening from the armpit, chest out towards the elbows. Good, and then from here, just press elbows down into the mat or down into the blanket. Hold and press. And then soften and release. So it's a small movement to begin. Really small movement. Let's try that again. Press elbows down. Hold. Holding and pressing. And then relax and release. And once again, pressing elbows down. Okay, so notice any other tension collecting as you press. Can you soften the throat, soften jaw, keep the tongue soft, press elbows down. Good, and then release. Let's just do that one more time. Pressing elbows, holding. Let go of any gripping anywhere else in the body. Maybe the belly's gripping. Hold. Good, and then soften and release. Beautiful. Okay, stay right there. Now from here, we'll tip our hips forwards. Tip the hips forward, arch the lower back. So you're really like you're lifting the lower back up away from the floor. Take a deep arch there, tipping hips forward. And then on the exhale, we'll scoop tailbone under, lengthen the lower back. Let's try that a few times. So on the inhale, the pelvis tilts into anterior tilt, arching lower back. Exhale, the pelvis tilts into posterior tilt, lengthening the lower back. Okay, so just take a few times like that. It's like you're rocking forward and back. Of course, the rest of the spine will move a little bit as well. Match the movement with your breath. So on the inhale, the belly expands and billows outwards. And on the exhale, the abdomen draws in as you scoop tailbone under. Good. On this next one, as you inhale and tip hips forward, pin your elbows down as we did previously. Inhaling. You could even slide the chin up towards ceiling a little bit. And then exhale, we scoop tailbone under, round the spine, lift head up off of floor. Lower on the inhale, pin the elbows down, tilt hips forward. Exhale to round up, draw elbows together. Keep going like that. Now find your own little rhythm here. Connect your movement to your breath. Inhale down, exhale up. Don't force the movement. It's kind of like a sit-up, but it's different because we're connecting the movement with the breathing. This is such a helpful movement to free up the diaphragm. Pin those elbows down on the inhale. Really broaden the belly on the inhale. Exhale, everything comes up, rounding, rounding, rounding. Good, and then we'll release, slide legs out, release, let everything go, pause here. Just notice now, just that one movement, observe any little tingles maybe in the shoulders or arms. It's this prana and blood, chi, moving through the tissues, moving through the joints, the meridians. Good, and then from here, we'll just reach one hand up towards the head and roll over onto our side, slowly, slowly pressing our way up. Okay, bring up your head very last, coming all the way up to a seated position. For our next setup here, we're going to do a couple of supported positions now. So I'll take my bolster and show on the bolster. For all of these supported positions, there are lots of options as far as the height that you take. So you could take less or more height on all of these poses that we'll be doing today. So for this posture here, I've got my bolster and it is going to be placed just between my shoulders and my hips. So right in the middle, basically my rib cage is going to rest right up on the support. And then I come to lie down on my side like so. Okay, so as I come down now, see how the bolster is supporting me. I've stretched my bottom arm out. I'm going to take my upper arm with my bottom arm and grab a hold. My head comes to rest down on my lower arm. Okay, you could stretch your legs out like so. So it's a nice side bend, you can see. You could take here more or less height. So it's quite nice to take more height if that's available to you. You could place 2 folded blankets down, or maybe 2 bolsters is always a really nice option. What you're looking for is a nice sense of length through your side body. So feel now as you settle this length that's created, the space that's created between the ribs, all of that intercostal space. Intercostal muscles, of course, lie there. So here you could see taking more height, we could start to build it up this way. And then I come and I lie down, creating a little bit more space. Eventually, if you have like 2 bolsters, that's a nice variation. 2 bolsters, then the hips are a little bit elevated, so that's fine. Hips and shoulders could be elevated here. As you come into the side bend this way, resting head down. Okay, so make sure that your neck is comfortable. And then once you have arrived, you can play around with just rolling a little bit forward and rolling a little bit back until you find a place
that feels really comfortable. And you start to find that action of space and length through side body. Once you've arrived, enjoy a few deeper breaths. These couple of supported postures we're doing today just require time. So as you settle in now, just really allow the tissue to respond as we give it some space. I find it's quite nice to bring the upper leg forward, lower leg back. You could try that variation. One more breath like that. Good. And then if you did just get there, you could stay longer in your home practice. We'll continue. So then from there, we'll just roll over onto the other side. So you could just roll right over. I'll take the other side here. Okay, so once again, placing the prop right between the shoulder and the hip. So rib cage is right on the prop. And then we come to lie back, lengthening arms and legs outwards if that's comfortable. Maybe bringing upper leg forward, lower leg back. And you can sort of roll forward and back here until you find a place that feels good for you today. And that might change from day to day, of course. So feel the breath here into side body, all of this space, of course, into the intercostal muscles, intercostal spaces between the ribs. And we'll stay right there and keep breathing. So as you come into the side bend, remember, we like to think of the lungs as just being in the front of the body. But of course, the lungs also are in the back body. A big percentage of the lungs are in the back body. And of course, they expand out towards the sides as we breathe as well. So here, feel the breath into side body. Notice the expansive quality of inhale. And then the gentle contracting of exhale. And we'll stay for just a little while longer. Remember, you can take more or less height if you need. Slow, soft, steady breath. Good, and then we'll slowly release, just reaching arms back down, and go ahead, press your way up through the center. You could roll onto your back for a moment, or just come all the way up to seated. Okay, from here now, we'll take our next variation. This time, we'll take the bolster.
let's see, let's start with a lower height. So I'll start with the blanket and then we can work our way up from there. So here I've got my blanket folded. You see how I've got a really even fold. That's important when we're doing the back bending work and the supported work. You want to make sure that the body is supported evenly. So I've got my blanket here, and then the first option would be to just come back like so. So I sit in front of the blanket and I come back this way, and I want my scapula, so that's the shoulder blades, on the blanket, so they're not tipping over the blanket. I want the scapula on the blanket. See how the edge of my shoulder is right on the blanket. And then I drop my head back like so. Okay, bringing arms out to the goalpost shape. Now, a few things to note here. The neck, the cervical spine does have a little bit of a curve, right? So the head is dropping back. But if your head is dropping too far back, if you're feeling strain here or crunching, or the chin is going way up to the ceiling, then you need more height. You could place a little bit of height underneath your head, or you could take less height underneath your shoulder blades. Okay, so a little bit of curve in the neck spine, but it should be comfortable. Throat is open and soft. Little back bend here. See how my legs are bent, feet to the floor. If this irritates your lower back or your hips are lifting up off the floor, place a folded blanket underneath you. Okay, so we're much more interested today in getting into the top chest, creating more space here in the top chest. Arms are at the goalpost. Could bring your arms out to T if that is better for you. If you do have some shoulder limitations or restrictions, you can always just bring arms down beside. Always, always altering the practice to support you and your needs, your body today. Okay, so that's the lowest height. If that feels good for you, you could stay there. I will show a little bit higher, so then you could go with maybe 2 blankets, for example. You could go here. You start building it up a little bit higher. So as I go back now, once again, shoulders are supported, and then I bring my head back. Okay, now this is where you want to start to really be careful with the neck. Might be a little bit too high, and in that case, you want to support the head. And once again, breathing. If the arms are floating off the floor, again, you need support. Don't let them just hang. So place the support underneath them of a folded blanket. Let's just stay for about a minute longer now, everyone. So take your breath. Feel the inhale, feel the exhale. Maybe softening eyes, softening jaw. And you can start to sense here into those pathways of the upper arm, anterolateral aspect of the arm, all the way down that inside edge of the arm out towards the thumb. And of course, the top chest, really, where the lungs, the physical organ of the lungs lie. And then slowly roll over onto one side. And press your way up to a seated position. Okay, and then our next little restorative setup here, we'll take either the bolster or the folded blankets. We'll take them lengthwise like so. And then it's nice if you have 2 bolsters, you could do 2 bolsters, or I'll show with a block today. You can basically use whatever you have around the house. You could use a stack of books here. This will just support my feet in a moment. So I'll actually go this way. Okay, so feet, and then the bolster is like so. And you may want to have a blanket just nearby. I'll show just to support the head like so, a little bit of extra padding. Some folks won't need the blanket at all. It's nice to have a strap too if you have one. It's not totally necessary, but I'll show with the strap just for that extra level of support. So I come to sit on the bolster, and then from here I'm gonna bind my legs. So I place the strap around my legs, just around the thighs, see that? And you wanna make it nice and snug, but not so tight that it's cutting off circulation. Okay, nice and snug like that. And then the heels are gonna go to the block as I come back. So as I come back, now this time I want the lower border of the shoulder blade to hook on the edge of the bolster as I go back. So the shoulder blade is not totally off the prop. You want that lower border of the scapula to hook. Okay, so watch as I come back. I go this way. I kind of scoop under a little bit, shoulder blade hooks, and then I travel backwards and I rest my head down. Okay, so now again, the neck is nice and free here. Depending on your structure, you may or may not need the blanket underneath. So without the blanket, then I just rest my head down like so. Okay, and then I extend my legs out, resting heels on the block. And I can bring my arms out to a T this way. Now, once again, you could take more or less height underneath you. A bolster is the good starting point, about this height, but you could take just one folded blanket. That would still be a little bit of a lift through the top chest. The throat and neck is nice and soft. Gently tucking chin, just very slightly tucking chin in. Could close the eyes, maybe soften breath once you've arrived. If this posture is irritating for your lower back, you could bend your legs and place your feet to the floor, and then allow the knees to drop in towards one another. Or you could take less height underneath you. That might also help. And once you've arrived, feel now into those energetic or meridian pathways all the way from deep in the stomach down towards the large intestine. Okay, there might even be a sense of length through the front body. And then that channel travels up towards the top chest and out through the arms. Let your head be heavy. And perhaps inviting a few fuller, deeper breaths. And just really allow now any areas of tension to soften. So observe your eyes, your jaw. Encouraging the healing power of the breath. In the Chinese system, the word for qi and breath is oftentimes the same. Interesting. So in the Chinese medical system, the lungs are actually responsible for circulating qi throughout the entire body. So they're not only responsible for respiration, they actually govern qi. Of course, qi is the life-giving or animating yang force in the body. It's what gives life to all things, you could say. And so perhaps feeling that quality of qi through the whole system. Okay, good. And then from here, just go ahead and bend your legs. Plant your feet to the floor. And if you're able, you could just lift your hips and just slide a little bit off the bolster towards your head. We'll scoot the bolster under us now. So it might be nice to take the strap off. You could spin the bolster around or just keep it lengthwise, placing the bolster right underneath now the sacrum. So the lower back is free and the bolster's just underneath tailbone area. Just maybe placing hands to your belly for a moment. Just pause there. Observe any little shifts, any little tingles, movements. And once again, simply touching the movement of the inhale and exhale. Just like the swelling and subsiding of the ocean tides. This rising and falling of prana in the body. Good, great. And then let's just pop the bolster out for a moment. Could place the bolster underneath the knees if you'd like. For a very brief Shavasana or resting pose, so resting the hands down at your sides. And we'll stay just for a brief rest. Now letting go entirely, letting the body go after those few movements. Slowly, slowly. Good. Stretch and then roll to one side. And bring yourself up to a seated position. And we'll close our practice here together. You're welcome to bring your palms together, maybe bowing slightly downwards. And taking this moment to really honor the practices, honor this time that we've given ourselves. Thank you for your practice.